Do you need to look at higher time frame based on that 1 minute SMT? Everything is always based off the higher time frame. You don't have higher time frame narrative, you have no trade. Alright. The trade I took on Tuesday. So Monday was that bank holiday. And we can go to Monday real quick. Kind of just play out that day. And noticed how we have the weekly open on Sunday, right? And notice this candle. Right, once again, this is kind of where we framed the entire week from. There's SMT here between was it ES? Yeah, ES and YM. So we had SMT at these lows, and we have a large manipulation candle taking out all of our failure swings. All a failure swing is just a swing low, right? And a swing low that doesn't have another swing low in close proximity to it. So since ES has taken out this low, but Nasdaq did not, now we're waiting to see if we get any sort of change in the state of delivery. So this right here, if you guys remember my tweet or alert, I said that I would be looking for price to come back into this area. I did not want to see a deep retracement because deep retracements do not support expansion, and I wanted to see this range high up here. And notice the failure swings to the highs, right? We move this. We have this swing high, this swing high, this swing high, and this swing high. This is the footprints of smart money. Right? This is what people call low resistance liquidity. So price did exactly what I wanted it to. And if it's a bank holiday, so I'm not going to be trading. But this did exactly what I wanted it to. So this is where I got my bias going into Tuesday from. So now we have Tuesday. This is why I was looking for longs. So we have this 4-hour order block being respected. Now we have another down close candle that's rebalancing the 4-hour fair value gap. So how an order block forms is it either has to take a low, ideally two forms of liquidity to form a very high quality down close candle, and you want it to have a large candle body. So in this case, that's why this one was so high probability. You can see one liquidity pool, and then this would have been two liquidity pools, and you can still classify this one. I just wouldn't put your emphasis on this one because this 4-hour low is in close proximity to this low. But the only reason why we expect this to be valid is because the SMT, like we went over earlier. But now we have a down close candle that's rebalancing inefficiency, and it's being created off of this 4-hour order block. So once we get another candle closure above, ideally, this low is now protected. So if we look at ES, you can see ES is low, also stays protected, but this is where we got SMT with YM. And if I can quickly go over to this for you guys. I believe there is SMT here at least. Yeah. So here's, you can see YM's weaker, and already you can tell YM's weaker just because YM is the one making the SMT on the higher time frame. Right? And you can see on this case, the 4-hour order block isn't created until all the way up here, instead of a Nasdaq's case right here. Right? And you can see YM never came into its 4-hour fair value gap here. Let me change the background color. See how we left failure swings to the lows here on YM. Finally, we take the low. And then so this is where the SMT occurred. Like I said, I wasn't expecting this low to get broken. So now, once the SMT occurs, I know that this low is now protected until these highs. Because we know that price is not going to reverse from just this pool of liquidity, because we still have unfinished business above. Right? And this was this previous weekly high? Yeah, this was previous weekly high. So a very strong drawn liquidity. So going into, I always go from the daily to the 4-hour to the 1-hour. And you can see a little of a deeper retracement than I wanted, but we just let this play out. And this is a logical area to find some resistance at. Why? Because once again, you see how far away. This is the only swing high. Don't look here. This is the only swing high before this. That's a lot of distance between these, correct? So this is what I'm talking about, relevant swings. This is the relevant swing, and then this would be your next, these two. So you can expect some sort of resistance in this area. So a lot of people like to just try to front run these, and then people will say, oh yeah, this is your order block once it closes above, if it ever does, and then you get smoked. Price can have some sort of retracement at this level, like we do here, and you can notice what time is it at. If we go to the 30 minute, what time does this occur? 9:30. Important time, right? So logical area being met, retracement into our 4-hour propulsion block. All that is an order block created off of an order block, which was this candle here, this one right here. And now we have time aligning with price. 9:30 manipulates lower, SMT with YM, and most importantly, we have the daily candle supporting our bias. And this is what I mean by a high quality trade. This is what I look for. Notice these wicks, the lower wick size of this daily candle. Look how small it is, because this is where the new day opens 18, right? We can mark this out. But a lot of people use midnight. Either way, see how price is opening lower first, and then we're expanding. That's how you want your bullish candle to form. This is your daily profile aligning with your narrative on the higher time frame. So a bullish candle needs to open, low, high, close. And then you can look at this. Open low, very small bottom wick, allows for a large expansion or a large candle body. So now we have all of these things aligning with us. Now all I have to do is wait for lower time frame risk for higher time frame reward. So you can wait for this 10 o'clock 30-minute change in the state of delivery, and you can long this afterwards and with like a stop loss at these lows, or you can do what I did and you can get even lower risk, because this is what I mean by I really knew what I was looking for. So here is that 9:30 judo swing that a lot of people like to talk about. We can mark out 9:30. I don't believe there's any news this day. Let me look real quick, but I don't think there was. Forex Factory. No, there's no news. So 9:30 is even more important to stay. So we have our SMT, and all I look for personally is an order block or a change in the state of delivery entry, because that's what I prefer. But you can use for buy gaps, you can use whatever. But since NASDAQ was the strongest asset, all I was waiting for was this here, this 1 minute series of down close candles. The SMT is happening at a key time, right after that 9:30 judo swing. And we have the SMT with YM confirming that I now am correct. And actually in this case, you can see here there is also lower time frame, even lower time frame SMT. So you can see here NASDAQ is making a new low at 937 while ES is not. So in this case, you can see ES makes a change in the state of delivery earlier than NASDAQ, but I wanted to trade NASDAQ just because it was cleaner on the higher time frame and it was closest to its drawn liquidity. So instead of just, I was waiting for the strongest asset here, NASDAQ, to create that change in the state of delivery, which happened right at 946, while on ES it happened at 940. So I waited until the 1 minute change in the state of delivery happened on both correlated assets. And you can see, if I really zoom in here, you can see the candle body barely closes above, and that was my entry. I just went long right there. And what do I always say? You do never want to see deep retracements in a continuation or in an expansion phase of price. So this is what my entry looked like. My stop loss was at the candle close of this two down close candles, because I also noticed that once we closed above here, price respected this and then one above as well. So this could have actually been your entry too, but I wasn't trying to front run anything. But you can see first partial 2R, and then previous weekly high, I held one for up here, and that was my entire trade for this day. Anybody have any questions? Do you guys understand like what separates? I'll show you guys what separates a day like this and then from Friday. But do you see how many things? And it's not that complex, right? Well, to me, I don't think it's that complex. But I need logic behind the trade that I'm putting on. Did any of this seem unlogical to anybody? And if so, maybe just because you're new, etc. But this seems so clear and precise to me. And this is what I mean by, if I don't have this kind of trade setup, I don't want to be putting on risk. Because this is almost guaranteed money. Of course, I'm going to be wrong. Everybody's going to be wrong. But this is what I mean by a high quality trade setup. If I would have taken a loss on this, I would have been completely okay. Very logical. No questions? I'm going to move on to Thursday. Alright. And we can do a quick recap real quick. The biggest thing for me was the 4 hour, right? Understanding this narrative with the SMT at the lows, the 4 hour changes in state of delivery. No deep retracements. See how price is staying in the upper portion of this fair value gap here. Another down close candle being used as support. SMT with YM at these lows here. SMT on the fractal 1 minute down here, like we pointed out earlier. 1 minute change in the state of delivery as our entry. Targeting logical failure swings above previous weekly high. And most importantly, 9:30 Judas swing. Time is aligning with price, and we enter. And also, once again, the second most important thing, the daily candle is aligning with our framework. Open low, supporting bullish prices. On to Thursday. This is the day that I felt like I should have caught a trade, but I wasn't 100% sure. So this was our draw on liquidity. This was previous weekly high. This got hit on Wednesday overnight. Actually, was that the 10 a.m. candle? Yeah. So, oh yeah, this got hit very early on in New York, so that's why I didn't trade this. And you can see what kind of this is the hourly chart. We finally dumped at like 3 o'clock. So I completely avoided this day. The draw got hit early on into the morning, which really doesn't support anything. And you can see the sharp rejection right after we took this. So that is not. This is not going to be a continuation, right? So Thursday, price going into Thursday, we had previous weekly high already met. And on the daily, I was also expecting price to rebalance this daily fair value gap. And you can see it actually filled it in entirely. And if we go to the 4 hour, you can see what's going on here. So I'll go back. So we have the entire daily fair value gap being filled in. We have this high being taken. And once again, this goes back to the daily profile and how you want price to form a bearish candle. So you can see here's 3 a.m. We have a potential objective reached, which would be that daily fair value gap fill. So that's why trading is always if then and if so then this, right? So we have a consolidation high, right? This wasn't here. We have a consolidation high, bunch of range highs, and also that daily fair value gap potential fill. And also, once again, here's our 18 o'clock open down here. Just a straight pump after, I believe, whatever that news was with Trump or something. That's the other thing too. So we have 18 o'clock. We have a very small open, right? Very small open low, and then just straight expansion. And see how none of this ever gets rebalanced? That's normally, like, it's fine obviously if you were to catch this and you were long, but that's not what you really want to see when you're going into the day. Especially since your objectives for the week are most likely already met since previous weekly high, and you're sitting inside of this daily fair value gap, and it's the end of the month. So the consolidation high gets hit, and price, you can see, immediately comes back into the range. So this is what I mean. Like, a lot of people will see this, like, oh yep, break a structure, down close candles, order block. Notice two things: not large down close candle bodies, right? What we went over, and see how these aren't really manipulating anything. We're not filling in a fair value yet. We're just taking this swing low and expanding higher. So now we don't have large down close bodies. We have a potential objective being reached. The consolidation high was met. And also, see how price breaks is high, hits the daily fair value gap fill, and immediately comes back into the range. You never want to see sharp rejections after a liquidity pool or a potential area gets hit. A potential area of reversal gets hit. So whenever you see this, just let it do its thing for a second. And even if you are expecting continuation, expect some sort of stop run in the opposite direction. So this is a reason why you shouldn't be chasing price if you were trading the London session. But this goes back to one of our daily profiles: London reversal, New York continuation. So what high gets put in at 4 a.m. We play price. Now we're starting to have some sort of displacement, and there was also 8:30 news this day. So this is what I mean, right? Potential objective being reached. We have time now aligning with price. I'm not sure if there's SMT up here or not. Maybe with YM too. So no SMT on ES yet, but we can check out YM. But you don't even need that. But it just helps you confirm it even more. But we have some displacement here. Now all we're waiting for, well, for me, since I won't trade until at least 9:30, but you want to wait for the 8:30 news to come out. And you can see 8:30 does absolutely nothing. Since there was already the manipulation that had already occurred prior to the 8:30 news. So this is what I mean when I type that out. And also the same thing happened on Friday. But 8:30 did nothing, and then 9:30 expanded. So this is what I mean by 8:30 did nothing. The reversal had already occurred prior to the news release, and now 9:30 should just do nothing but expand because the reversal had already occurred during London. And we can check if there is SMT here. Here is 1:30. Yeah, see, there was SMT. So this is why you can trust this even more as well, even though you're going against the trend in quotation marks. You can see here's 4 a.m. and YM's high is actually at 1:30. So this, and even on the hourly chart, you can see hourly change in state delivery, and now we have large fair value gaps. And so this is what I was looking at going into the day. I saw that we had this hourly bearish fair value gap here. All of this price action was unbalanced, and the only relevant swing is down here. So going into this day, I saw that we barely tapped in this fair value gap and just died, right? So going into 9:30, looking at this, you can see this occurred. Lower time frame risk, higher time frame reward. So this is what I mean right here. So this black line is that hourly fair value gap high. We barely touch this and then go lower. Here's your up close candles that took the buy side liquidity, rebalancing the 1 hour fair value gap. Now we have a change in the state of delivery. And so now this is where you would just have to understand and trust price that it would not come above this high. So that this is more of an advanced day. Also why I had a little bit of trouble catching this because I kind of moved away from trying to catch the top. But ideally, of course, this looks like extreme hindsight, but I promise you, you guys will be able to trade some of these trades. These entries are the ones you have to take or trust. And actually, one of the guys that I've learned from a lot is AM Trades. This is the setup he took. He just went short somewhere over here. I'm sure his stop loss was either at this order block or something like this, but all he did was just target 2R. I'm not exactly sure because he doesn't share his stop loss placement. But once again, you wouldn't want large retracements. And if you do, if you would have entered off of this, you would have your stop loss somewhere up here. And you can take 2R pretty easily, as you can see. But that's the logic was here again too, right? So regardless of the entry is a little harder today, or on this day. But same context applies, right? Look at the daily candle. SMR at the top, so smart money reversal. Buy side liquidity pool taken. Potential area of interest reached. Daily fair value gap fill. SMT with YM on the highs. And now we have up close candles being closed below and having displacement, large fair value gaps getting created to the downside. And no retracements to the upside, as you can see here. And 830 did nothing because price had already done the damage prior to the news release. So that's why you can expect your next key time to distribute you lower. So this was a little more of an advanced entry, and ideally that's what I don't really like to enter on the 1 minute, especially right off the open because you can get wicked pretty fast. But this is a day where everything aligned as well. And unfortunately the 930 candle literally just dump. But you guys can see how what I'm teaching you is real, right? I said that the next key time, 930, should expand because 830 did nothing. And you can see this is a little fractal AMD for you guys who trade power of 3, right? And this high is important because that's that hourly fair value gap high. So you have accumulation, you have a slight manipulation of the high. And once again, this is exactly what you want to see when you're looking for lower prices or higher prices, but in this case, we're looking for shorts. You do not want to see deep retracements. We barely take this high, barely tap into the hourly fair value gap, and then 930 does all the damage right there. And that's why you can just trust that this is going to hold. And you can see there's no pretty much any retracement on the higher time frame. And even price, same thing here, goes lower. Little bit of a trickier day, but yeah, it's being recorded. Yeah, Nvidia earnings were Thursday, right? Or was that Friday? I don't know. I don't even keep track of that. That one was a little trickier. Anybody have any questions on that? But the same kind of logic applies. And you can see the daily candle, once again, small upper wick. And this daily candle, by the way, is only measured from midnight because that's what ICT teaches. 18 is still important, but I have a lot more focus on midnight than 18. And you can see small upper wick again, allowing for a large candle body. And this is what I mean. London reversal. So here's London high. Here's 930. London reversal. New York continuation. Wednesday. I was only watching that since I considered it as a macro. Gotcha. Yeah. It just pumped overnight. And Cass, I'll show you Friday right now and kind of the logic that I was looking at. I mean, I hope, of course, this is helping somebody. Friday. Yeah, Friday was trickier too, and I once again didn't take a trade, but the longs at the end of the day were definitely the move. which I was kind of all over, but I just chose to stay out because I noticed, and that's why it's important to journal. If I do stick around and look at charts, I almost never do well during the PM session. So
Rob, can I ask a quick question about Friday? Because I managed to get out green on Friday, but it was an atrociously sloppy day for me. And my main my main thought going into Friday was there's that daily order block that it wicked into, right?
yeah, this.
And so I, after the move, pretty early after, I didn't really trust off the AM session. And then when I saw the deep drive into the daily order block, like kind of around lunch or just after lunch,
Yeah.
I figured that we would get a good move back up out of that, and I was looking for longs. But like in the context of like I was watching the 5 minute chart, right? There's some SMT at lows, and then the other thing is like I struggled to hold down the long because I didn't like where would you say the best intraday kind of change in state of delivery or where the best entry would have been for longs? Like would you have waited all the way until it came back up
Yeah,
to
so yeah, this is what I was gonna explain to Cass.
okay.
So yeah, this day was just straight buns just because nothing really happened. Like there was no manipulation other than this from Thursday, but like a Thursday reversal profile going into Friday, I was kind of expecting that continuation into either at least that weekly low or maybe this weekly fair value gap down here. But what the higher time frame really wasn't like anything on the hourly wasn't supporting that, and I was gonna take this because this was same thing. So consolidation high taken, SMT with YM once again at these high, or was it ES? Yeah, SMT with ES, and there was so much SMT with YM just off the open, and that's another reason why the day was just trash because the huge divergence after 9:30 was just stupid. So that was another reason why I stayed hands off. But the SMT at the highs and the small rally above midnight, failure to even get inside of this 4 hour fair value gap, all those things were kind of making me look at shorts. And once again, the only relevant swing low would be down here. Right, so this is where you could be expecting some sort of reversal from. That also pairs with what? 4 hour fair value gap, and like you said, that daily order block. And when we're bullish, we don't really want to see the 50% even get touched. In this case, it did, but you can see it never closed below that. So going into this, I was looking at the 15-minute, and I was literally just thinking about taking a short above midnight price, so right here, and just keeping my stop at the SMT high, and then riding it down to this low. But you can see how stupid this would have been, and how long I would have been in this for. So I just opted out to stay, and honestly, it wasn't even that great of RR. To this low, it wasn't even a 2R yet. You can see it does get there because it does target this 4 hour low. But to me, it just wasn't worth it, and I'm glad because I honestly probably would have never held this long. But going back to the reversal area, this is what I was going to actually long. And back to your question, where I like to enter. So I don't like to front run. Sometimes, like if they're, it's not necessarily front running, but I have to get more comfortable with it. And I think the only reason that I would take this first change in the state of delivery on the 5 minute is only because of the SMT at the lows. So that's how you can kind of trust that this should be the smart money reversal. But I still like to just take the continuation entry. It's always going to be the safest. So in this case, this is just the same kind of fractal thing that we were looking at on the higher time frame earlier on the first example on Tuesday. So you can see order block, 4 hour liquidity swept, 4 hour fair value gap, all supporting price. We look at ES, you can see SMT here. So now this would be your down close candles. I always like to use the 3 and the 5 minute for my change in state of delivery entries. Sometimes I'll use the 15, but normally the risk to reward isn't always there. And if you're trying to catch like a real smart money reversal, you can see the 15 minute change in state of delivery wouldn't have been all the way until up here, which at that case you already missed the entire move. So the 3 and the 5 minute are pretty much always going to look the same. And you can see in this case the 5 actually had better risk to reward. So that's whatever, I always use them interchangeably, so whatever has the best risk to reward. So ideally this is the best entry, right? You just long the opening price of this order block. Stop, whoops. Stop would be ideally just below this fair value gap, because you have this 5 minute fair value gap, still all these down close candles, and also this 5 minute fair value gap, so you don't want to see deep retracements once again. Logical pull liquidity to target or area of interest, just the high to this low, and the 50% of the range is where my focus would have been on. And also you can use midnight as a draw too. And you can see, look at the day of the candle, right? This doesn't really support expansion. So you have to taper your kind of targets. So this ideally is the best entry, but this is what I was looking at. I was just going along this 5 minute here, this 5 minute order block. Since it rebalanced, this inefficiency was created off of these down close candles. Ideally, now this low doesn't get taken, and you can see actually the risk to reward is actually much better. Um, and on this, you can either enter on the high or the candle body. If we enter on the high, you can see it's 40 points of risk. And if we target a little bit above EQ, that's 2R. But if you use the candle body, close, stop at the low, only 30 points. And you can see if you would target EQ, it's almost a 2.5R trade. And right here's 2R. So you get much better risk to reward if you just kind of wait and price does its thing. And then we're finally kind of getting close. You can see midnight gets hit, and then we have the SMT at the highs with, actually no, it does hit. I think ES hit it first though. Yeah, it did. So all these highs up here got hit at, yeah. So in this case, you would be wanting to take ES because it's the one that didn't make the low. So you can see in this case, you're just trusting. See how this is where people kind of get confused too. See how this is the candle that takes the liquidity, right? This is the last swing low. But NASDAQ makes it low and then closes above. Now in this case, since you're looking at ES and it's a stronger asset, this would be your order block. Only because of the SMT, not because it took a low or anything. That's why you can trust this here, and you can see same kind of thing. Boom, stop loss at the low, or again, stop loss at the low or the fair value gap. Even better RR, and you can see how much, this went absolutely crazy. All the way up here. And same thing, if you just want to wait, you can take the continuation entry on ES. So same thing, boom, even better risk to reward, and there's your entry. So honestly, I think probably the only reason that these highs even got hit is just because the end of month flow, etc. Normally this won't happen, but you can see it does happen. So you can just, hold runners or whatever you want to do. But in this, I honestly, if I was taking this, I would have just got out for 2R. So I would have missed a lot of this, but, it's completely okay. I'm here to make money and not be right. My draw was on premium order block, which it did tag near end of sesh. I'm gonna start noting all acronyms. 70 points of risk? Yeah, bro, I'll have the largest stop loss possible if I need to. I don't care. I just size accordingly. People are like, oh, I'll never have a 50-point stop. Okay, well, don't take the trade then. Anybody have any questions? TT, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was so to be fully honest, it's a little bit different with me, right? Because I've kind of slacked off on futures. I've been mostly focused on SPX. So I entered, with options, it's a little bit different. And there's a couple of factors. The sharp sell off kind of really jacked up IV. So I didn't want to overstay my welcome in the position. And then it was just kind of a failure of trading mentality. Like I longed the SMT and I kept thinking because of the way that the hourly looked and, some of the higher time frames with all those inefficiencies, like we were going to just come back to, like you said, kind of C of the range or test the fair value gap and then continue lower.
Gotcha.
So it was really just a combination of sloppy entry. You look at fourth door,
You're lagging for me. I don't know if you are for anybody else, 'cause I can't hear a word you're saying.
I was just saying that in hindsight, it makes more sense to have waited for the change in the state of delivery. But with some of the higher time frame fair value gaps, I figured we would be in a retracement and then continuation rather than running all the way fucking back up to midnight price.
Yeah, so that just kind of goes back to what I was telling you that one day is just the failure swings, right? So this is the only logical area that we could possibly reverse from, right? Because we already
Mhm.
haven't. We did nothing from this low, right? And then here's our next swing low. Did nothing there. This is the only next level that we could possibly get a reaction from, and you can see, what that's paired with, the 4 hour fair value gap and the daily order block. So really, you don't want to be fading that, right? Because we already discussed that this most likely is the low. This is most likely going to be some sort of intermediate term low, at least for the time being, right? Like I wasn't expecting this to get broken this week. It could, but this was in the way first. So this is an area of interest where we can get some sort of reversal, and just because we have all of those failure swings above, and also timed, right? So this would be that 10 a.m. high, which is important. Same kind of thing. Bunch of failure swings to the highs. And also YM, which was the weakest asset, is now the strongest asset in this case. So same kind of thing. Failure swing, SMT with NASDAQ and ES at this Thursday low. And if we go to replay mode, we can probably find a 5 or a 3 minute change of the state of delivery down here. Yeah, so right here would be your 3 minute because of the SMT. You would just trust that this would hold.
That's another thing I need to kind of work on is, generally I'm trading mobile as well. So that is not always ideal trying to flip between three indexes, but I
Yeah.
very rarely look at Dow, to be fully honest.
Well, I wasn't at all last year because it literally wasn't correlated whatsoever. It was doing whatever it wanted every single day. Like it wasn't. It was either up 2% and then down 4% the next day, and Nasdaq was like barely red or green. So
Right,
when it's correlated, you have to look at it
right.
because you can miss trades. Because the SMT, all like that's why I said all you need is a relevant level, a higher time frame key level. So in this case, all of those three levels that we already pointed out, and then now you have SMT, which is that Kraken correlation that's making your idea correct.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate it, Roberto.
Of course. I'm gonna end the recording, but anybody have questions? Anybody have